We're going to get started here.
He just missed his
The opening debut qualifier. Okay.
About how we should read the contract.
You should read the contract. It's very important to read the contract. The differences between the two, the new home sales contract that the builders have is written in their best interest. Okay, the one that the new home sales contract that KCRAR has put together, it's a little bit more even, but it actually sides in favor of the buyer. Okay, so you will find that sometimes, come on in there, Court Stewart.
I think that one was Chrissy Temperatures. Jump in it.
We need another chair.
I'm going to go grab one.
Okay, very good.
Like I said, quality problem.
It's my chair. My poker chair for my house. And she goes, I can, I promise.
I own it.
Oh, all right.
Okay, so we're going to get back to these two different contracts. One's written in the best interest of the builder, the other one written in the best interest of the buyer, and we're going to kind of look at where the two vary. So everybody has a copy of this, plus we have it on the big screen, so if you can't read it up there, then look at your stuff. Okay, so they're kind of the same on the first, they still have the same information at the very beginning. This contract's between the name of the builder and the name of the buyer. That's all the same. Lot, the same. The first page of it is fairly similar. You go down, you look at has the price is the same, talks about earnest money. Where this differs a little bit is it says on 2A it talks about the earnest money, and it always has something about the builder. This one says it's be paid by transfer to builders, credit of the lot reserve deposit made by buyer to the developer. You'll get on most new homes contract, not most, but many of them, you'll have lot deposits. Like somebody will reserve a lot, and they'll put $1,000 or $5,000 down on that lot, and then they have a time to pick out what floor plan and what they want to do in terms of building a home, and usually it's a 30 to 60 day process, and then you would use that little area right there to transfer that deposit, and it works the same on both of these contracts. Deposit is non-refundable, is what it says.
Yeah, that's
one of the big differences.
That's
right
the
there.
big difference right there, because if you notice on the new construction contract, right there, those first 5 words, the deposit is non-refundable, versus, scroll up just a hair on that right side, Corey. On the KCRAR form, you'll notice right there on line 23, it says, is this refundable or non-refundable?
You get to check or not.
That's right.
And that's one of the differences of this contract.
And where was it that it says
Not.
okay, thank you.
Was that not refundable? What line was that? Or where was that?
It's in the paragraph.
That would be the paragraph below
Below
Right
C.
there, those first 5 words on the builder contract.
Right after C. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so if we come over here, it's this little area.
Yeah.
Well, it's not all blue, but this little area right here. The deposit is non-refundable, as defined below. And in this other one, when it talks about deposits and all that kind of stuff, there's going to be some deposit language. It will have language specific to it. Okay. So anyway, for the most part, they're virtually the same on the first page, except one talks about it being refundable or non-refundable. Okay, so then we go to...
I was going to say, Tori, I think the line that you're looking for is line number 29 on the KCRAR contract, right there.
Okay.
Because it does say, if it's deposited with the seller, that buyer acknowledges that the funds payable to the seller will not be held subject to escrow provisions herein. Does anybody have an idea what escrow provisions are standard for Kansas and or Missouri?
And both parties agree to
No, it has to do with the timing of the money and where the money goes. So if the money goes to an escrow company, our title companies, they are under federal guidelines to have that money into their escrow account within 5 days in Kansas,
5 in Kansas, 10 in
and
Missouri.
10 in Missouri. Yeah. So we all knew that. That's what that's talking about. So as we read through, go, oh, okay, well, the seller, Mr. Builder, is not held to that same standard. Since you're giving the money directly to him, he can do whatever he wants with it. If he wants to sit on it for a month, great. It's his business. He can do that. So that's what that's talking about right there. Builder, the seller, can do anything he wants with his earnest deposit because it's his money.
You still have to get some type of receipt from him that he's received it.
Yep.
And you have to have that according to Missouri or Kansas law.
The best way to do that is when representing a buyer or representing the seller, you take a copy of the check, the earnest deposit check, and then just right there on that copy, you write received by X with a line and have your builder sign right there. And date it. You want to go smaller, buddy.
Yeah, I want to stretch this one out and then go back to the other one here. So it's a little bit more readable.
All right.
Okay, so then we come down here, and then on this one we've got additional definitions. It talks about plan specifications and drawings prepared by, number, last dated. You use that little box if you actually have a floor plan that's developed for this particular house. Many times it's this next one, which is substantially similar to specifications, standards, and materials as for the model of existing residence located at. And you just put a location, and I'm building the house similar to this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third would be plans and drawings are not applicable. Buyers are purchasing existing or completed homes. So that's when you pick up a kind of an old spec or a house that's nearly completed. Okay. And we come over this one. And let's go 100. Come over here. You notice that that same language, it doesn't follow the same way. See, next page, you go into other discussions. It talks about an event of a cash sale, buyer shall provide written verification from a depository. It goes into closings, closing and possession, delays, extensions of closings. And this is interesting, the difference here. This talks about if completion of the construction is delayed due to weather, strikes, acts of God, or change orders, buyer's delay, or other conditions over which the seller has no control, regardless of any of the other provisions of this contract, closing and possession shall be extended for that period of time caused by any such delays in construction. Seller shall promptly provide written notice to buyer identifying length of time and cause of delay. With notice, buyer assumes responsibility in notifying lender of said delays. Normal scheduling of subcontractors' employees is a responsibility of the seller. And over here, they started out with these other substantially similar and other stuff, and then it goes into closing, very common or similar to the other one, and then it goes into, terms of residence, means, what does it mean, property, lot, and all that kind of stuff.
Definitions.
Just definitions.
That way everybody knows what everything means.
And then it really pulls away from the other one because it actually has its financing addendum within the contract, as opposed to the other contract. You have a financing addendum.
It's separate.
Totally separate. So you go through this, and it talks about this contract is not conditioned upon buyer obtaining a loan or loan commitment or on actual funding of any loan. And then you have the box to check that it is. It's one of the two. It either is or isn't. Okay. And if it is, then they have the terms here, and it talks about